Hello and welcome to how to make a thrummed mitten. A thrummed mitten means that there are bits of wool on the inside of the mitten to make sure that you are extra toasty warm during the winter months. To begin, you will need 4 double-pointed needles, worsted weight yarn, roving to make the thrums, scissors, a darning needle, stitch holders to hold the thumb, and time. To start the mittens, take your 4 double-pointed needles and your worsted weight yarn, and with one of your needles and your worsted weight yarn, make a slip knot and place the slip knot on to one of your double-pointed needles. Cast on 36 stitches. After you have your 36 stitches cast on, take another one of your double-pointed needles and turn your needle to slip the stitches onto another double-pointed needle. Slip 12 stitches onto a second double-pointed needle. Then take another double-pointed needle and slip 12 more stitches onto that one. There should be 12 stitches on each needle now. Arrange your needles into a triangle with even spacing on all of the needles. To begin knitting your mitten, pick up the needle that does not have a tail on the end. Take your other double-pointed needle and knit 2 stitches with both the working yarn and the tail so that you can have a very sturdy join. For the next 2 stitches, use only your working yarn and purl 2 stitches. Make a knit 2, purl 2 rib for 2 inches. After you have made your 2 inches of knit 2, purl 2 ribbing, you will have about 13 rows of knit 2, purl 2. After that, you need to knit 4 rows of stockinette stitch. After you have completed your first 4 rows of stockinette stitch, you are at the point in your project where you need to add your first row of thrums. Set your work aside and grab your bag of roving. To make a thrum, pull off a generous piece of roving. Now slightly pull so that you can get a more airy substance to make your thrums. Your roving needs to be fairly thin after you've been pulling for a while. So keep pulling and pulling. Now don't pull too much to where it will break your fiber. You need it thin enough so that your thrums will not be so huge that you cannot fit your fingers or hand into your mitten, but thick enough so that your mitten is nice and toasty warm. Keep pulling until it's very thin. For this project, you only need 30 thrums for the small size. When your roving is about this thick, wrap it once around your hand and then pull the roving apart. Set the rest of your roving aside, and once you have the loop of roving, hold it in the middle and take your hand and rub it back and forth. This will felt the middle of the roving so that you can add it to your knitting. You might want to give it a few twists so that it is about the same thickness of your yarn. There's one thrum. Continue this process until you have the desired amount of thrums. You will be putting in 6 thrums for every 6 rows. To add a thrum to your knitting, knit the first 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and in the 6th stitch, take a thrum, give it a little twist, and place it on your needle. Make a loop around your needle and pull it through as you would a normal stitch. Now continue on knitting until you get to the next spot where you have to add your thrum. In this case, it is the 12th stitch. Go into the 12th stitch, set your knitting down carefully as not to unravel or drop any stitches, and twist up your thrum and place it on the needle in a loop. Knit as you normally would, and you have finished your first needle of thrums. Later on in the project, when it is finished, we will go back through and tie the thrums so that they do not unravel. Knit the next 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Insert the next stitch, and I have some prepared thrums to put into the next stitch. Twist, place it on your needle in a loop, and pull it through. Notice that this is a difficult process and requires a little bit of finagling to get it through. Knit the next 5 stitches. Insert the needle into the next stitch as to knit. Grab your next thrum, twist it, place it on your needle as to knit, and pull it through the next stitch. You've completed the second needle of thrums. Do the third needle as you have the last 2 needles. Knit the first 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and insert the needle into the 6th stitch. Wrap your thrum and place it on a loop onto the next needle. Knit the stitch normally. Knit the next 5 stitches with your main yarn. 4, 5. Now I have to make one more thrum for this row. So pull your roving out ever so slightly until it's pretty thin. Wrap it around your hand, pull the roving off, pinch it in the middle, lay it on your hand, and then roll your hand over it to felt it a little bit. And then twist your thrum. Insert your needle into the next stitch. Oops. Sorry about that. And then place it as a loop onto the needle. Knit it normally, and you have completed your first row of thrums. Now then, you need to start increasing for your thumb, which will go here. To do so, knit one stitch as you normally would, and then knit one stitch in the front loop, but don't slip it off, and then go in the back of the stitch and knit through the back loop. You have now increased one stitch, and you will also need a stitch marker to know where you increased that stitch for the thumb. Knit the rest of the row as you normally would. When you come to a thrum, just pick up the roving as you would normally knit a stitch and just knit it through. Now notice that it is pretty loose, so you will need to pull the roving on the back, but be careful that you don't pull it all the way out. So be pulling both sides of the roving at the same time. And continue on knitting as you normally would. After you have knit one row of your thrums, they should look similar to this. To knit the next round, you just need to knit the entire round. No increases and no thrums. For the next round, it is an increase round. So you need to knit through the front loop. Don't slip your stitch off, and knit through the back loop. Now slip the stitch off. Knit one. Now knit one through the front loop, don't slip the stitch off, and knit one through the back loop. Slip the stitch off and transfer the marker to the other needle. Now knit the rest of the round as you normally would, and I will be back with you for the next round. For the next round, all you need to do is knit the entire round. For the next round, this is an increase round. You need to knit the first stitch through the front loop, don't slip it off, and then knit through the back loop. Slip the stitch off. Now, knit 3, 1, 2, 3, and knit through the front loop, and then knit through the back loop. Slip the stitch off, and then transfer your stitch marker to the right hand needle. Knit the rest of the round as you normally would.